Hello, and welcome to the Strategic Alignment Podcast. This program is all about providing leaders and managers with meaningful insights on how to optimize business results by aligning their people strategy to their business strategy. Our goal is to support you as you rise to the challenges of complex decision-making centered around attracting and retaining top talent.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to another Strategic Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Pottinger, and it's a pleasure being with you guys here again. And this is where we say we inspire growth while sustaining excellence. And we're going to continue the topic that we started to talk about last session, and that topic is inspiring people to perform. That's one of the biggest questions you hear leaders and organizations they're talking about today. How can you get people to perform? How can you get that discretionary value? How can you get them to go beyond the extra mile to give their best to their organization? You see, organizations today, guys, they are facing numerous challenges around attracting and retaining the best talent and building an organizational culture that aligns with the strategic direction so that they will continue to crush their goals while they want to fulfill certain dreams. And this evening, we're going to continue that discussion on how this can be achieved even in a hybrid working environment. And today, guys, I'm joined with my favorite guest of all time, the Chief Operating Officer of Pottingers and Associates, none other than Shauna K. Pottinger. I hope you hear the bells ringing when you hear the last name. And just before she starts to speak, I'm going to say that talent optimization is really a 4-part discipline that connects an organization's business strategy to desired results, and one of those disciplines has to do with inspiring people to be their best, to do their best, to build a culture that allows people to go beyond the extra mile, that will support and help managers to do the same thing. So Shauna, I'd like for you to walk me through those steps this evening. And let's put it this way. I am a business owner who has just hired a very talented employee. He clearly gets it. He understands what we need. He understands exactly what the organization is in need of. They appear to have a very promising future with the company, and losing him would leave a major void in our organization. What are some suggested ways that this employer could implement strategies or steps to retain this employee?
That's an excellent question, especially as we are talking about, and by the way, it's good to be here and also good to know that I am your favorite guest. It's interesting that you said that, because I'm not so sure if I need to put a check in the mail or something. But let's deal with the topic on hand here, Jamie. Yeah, that's a very good question that you ask when it comes on to organizations that are pursuing what we call sustained growth, because sometimes growth come in different waves. And so if you're looking to consistently grow as an organization, it's very important that you are able to identify and recognize champions in your midst. If you have an employee that is showing grit, resilience, is able to navigate situations with very high emotional intelligence, this is the kind of people that you would consider to be your keepers, right? This is a type of talent that you want to keep around. There are companies who may have hired somebody not so much because they have the technical expertise, but because they have the know-how and the grit to get through situations. Organizations tend to focus on these individuals. So among some of the strategies that I believe would be helpful in this regard for this leader that is, contemplating ways that I could just retain this person, I think one of the greatest things that an organization can do is, upon hiring an individual, to give and communicate a very clear career path to this individual. It's almost like you're trying to create an environment where you're allowing them to keep their eyes on the prize. You're giving them some hope that there is a possibility for you to have some upward mobility. And what does that look like? Identifying new roles as your organization organization continues to grow and there are different strategies that you're pursuing, you'll find that there will be a need for you to create new positions or redefinition of a role or lateral moves and so on. We'll talk about that some more later on. Another thing that they can do is to create what we call a compelling career path. Why is it compelling? Because at each level, you're challenging this individual to grow, and it's something for them to aspire towards, whether it be a pay raise, a promotion, whatever it is. If you look at the model that most of the Fortune 500 companies have in place right now, once you show some promise, there's always hope that you will be
True.
able to move up. And so it's very important for you to create that scenario because people always want to have something to look forward to. And, don't be ambiguous about career advancement opportunities. It is something that you should welcome and treasure that you have people who are looking to move up in your organization. So those are some of the strategies that I'll basically just reel off in a nutshell that's coming back to my memory right now. But just know that once you are looking to pursue growth as an organization, you also have to look about the growth and think intentionally about how you are going to implement a career path for your employees so that they can grow as well.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Shauna. And one thing I've always learned, I've always heard this: encouragement strengthens labor. And if you're not investing in your employees, if they don't believe that you have their best interest at heart, then you will not get the best out of them. They'll always be looking for another path to see another opportunity that could allow them
Mhm.
to maximize their strengths. But Shauna, there are so many positions on the organizational chart in a given organization, and not everyone may land that promotion that they will need in order to get those advancing opportunities. But what would you suggest to those organizations that may not have a clear and open path towards growth for someone that they identify who has great talent? What kind of advice would you have for them? Because sometimes you have somebody in your team, somebody in your organization, they have the talent, they have the skills, but when you look at your organizational chart, you don't really see anything that you could give to them to allow them to feel as if you are investing in their potential to even become a better member of the team.
Jamie, that's a very good one question because that speaks to the constraints that a leader may be working with. I remember when I received my very first promotion, and I really enjoyed my first job. But when I got that promotion, it felt so good to have something that challenged me. And even if I didn't have a raise in salary, I knew this was something that I would have enjoyed. And so there are some situations and scenarios where an organization may have to think both strategically and creatively as they're looking to open up new development opportunities for their employees so that they remain engaged, they remain challenged. One of those things I think would be lateral moves. There are times when it doesn't require a pay raise, but you can move a person from one position, do a transfer or a job rotation. Those are some of the creative ways that you can bring about a scenario where you give them a change of scenery. Let's look at it this way. I'll give you an example. What if you have a champion that's working for a manager that really doesn't know how to challenge them? As a leader in the C-suite, you realize that this person, if you don't do something real quick, will actually get frustrated and decide that, listen, I'm going to start looking. And then you check that LinkedIn profile and you see on there that I'm actively looking looking for new opportunities. And then you realize, oh, wow, I need to do something. Well, I think that there are some creative things that you can do. You put this individual on a developmental project to lead out so that you are developing their leadership skills. We'll talk some more about that later on. But there are certain things that you can do, Jamie, that are very creative, that definitely shows forth that you are actually a leader of foresight. The problem is, a lot of organizations, they deal with employees like annual budgets, right? Where you literally just do it once a year and then basically that's it. Every year over year, you look, oh, I spent 1 million this year, let me just increase that by 15%, because our growth pattern normally grows by 15%, and that's it. You don't touch it. You don't do anything else afterwards. But a true leader, a leader of foresight, they have to come up with creative ways to stimulate their employees, to challenge them so that they can develop and build their capacity as a leader and grow within your organization. And sometimes that may not necessarily come in the form of a promotion, but sometimes that may come in the form of placing them on a temporary project or some kind of a what we call lateral project movement.
So,
Yes.
as you said that, Shauna, talking to the leaders now is that many times, leaders have certain strategies, they have a strategic plan, and even though they have members of their team whose path for growth exceeds that of their strategic approach that they have for their organization, and they believe that they must remain fixed in that position, not understanding that unless you're willing to adjust your strategic plan to cater for those who will get you the strategic goals that you have, you'll never get there. So many times we have leaders and organizations, because they have a plan that they set in stone, like the 10 commandments for the last 15 years. They are not willing to be agile, understanding that we are living in a gig-like society when it comes down to
Yes.
changes, and people are now willing to take a low to get a reduction in salary in an effort to achieve the kind of goal and the kind of fulfillment that they need from a given organization. And if leaders fail to do that, then they will set themselves up for losing top talents. And that takes me to the next question, Shauna.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that and I'm going to say this, and many people, you may be laughing when I ask this question, but it's happening. It's happening. The question is, why is it that high salaries and great benefits are no longer sufficient for companies to retain top talent? You have a lot of top talent right now. They are leaving their organizations, even though they're getting bonuses, they're getting raising salaries and all that stuff. They're getting the bells and the whistles, and they're still jumping on the highway. They prefer to be out of a job for a month in an effort to land in the right environment. Why is that happening, and what can be done to stem this challenge that we're having? As you said in your last conversation, it's called the Great Resignation Era. What is
Mm-hmm.
it that employers and organizations can do at this point to stem this flow of people leaving their organization?
Well, Jamie, in response to the great resignation, well, they have to find a way to bring about the great retention, right? Yeah. The truth is, money and benefits, there was a point in time where that works. And I think I mentioned in the last episode that there's now a greater focus, particularly in the healthcare industry, which we work with a few clients in the healthcare industry, Jamie. And the feedback that we're getting is that people are choosing their mental health. People are choosing to be well mentally as opposed to being wealthy. And that's something that employers are going to have to take a serious look at. So I don't want to go over that point anymore because we touched on it the last time significantly. But there's another topic that I want us to talk about when it comes on to not substituting the fact that you are able to provide bonuses, to provide great salaries for your employees in order to retain them. There's a factor that a lot of us tend to leave behind, and that has to do with organizational culture. Workplace culture is such a major factor that I don't think that there's any way we can miss it in terms of what is going on. Your workplace culture may be that one thing. It can be what we call the catalyst for allowing an individual to be productive, but it also can be that same thing for them to be completely disengaged. And as an organization, looks at retaining the top talent that they have, trying to retain people and to make sure that, they're not leaving. One of the things that they have to look at intentionally is what kind of culture am I fostering? And are my people comfortable with the culture that we have here? Do they feel a sense that they're valued? Do they feel like, you know, one commentary that we heard is that, you never actually valued us before
True.
now, but now that you see that we're leaving, you're trying to throw money at the problem. And that's one of the hardest things to recreate. So one of the things that we say, and it colleges and associates consulting, we help organizations to work through developing the values, the behaviors, the norms that they want to see that will support the strategic direction that they're taking the organization in. And if they fail to do this, then what will eventually happen is that people are going to be leaving you in droves because they don't feel like they're valued. They feel like this job takes away more than it adds to my life. And so even if I have to take a pay cut for my peace of mind, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Peace out. All the best to you. So that's one of the major factors that we have to focus on, Jamie. Um, Once the culture is where it is supposed to be, the organization can then focus on other things like developing leaders at every level within the organization, because that's another big piece. But Jamie, the culture and mental health, those are some of the things that organizations are going to have
So,
to be very intentional around.
so what you're saying, Shauna, that employees are now saying that they have 99 problems, but the pay ain't one. So they prefer that's not they're saying that the culture has to be right, and we know that the culture is the vehicle that drives the level of success that you have in an organization. The culture is what drives the level of growth that you experience. The culture is really the vehicle and the engine and the wheel. It's everything. It's what really gives life to an organization. And many times, as leaders, as people running companies, we forget that without people we have nothing. And the culture allows us to create a relationship with those who we're leading and those who we are serving. And once you have a relationship will give you the results that you need, but results will not necessarily guarantee you the relationship that you need. You see, a lot of top organizations, after making millions or billions, what happens is that they lose top talents, and then in a matter of time they are relegated into antiquity because they're no longer with us, because they fail to invest in culture. And by investing in a positive culture, you're investing in your people. And when you're investing in your people, you're investing in relationships. When you're investing in relationships, you're automatically investing
Yes.
in results. And when you're investing in those three or four things, then you will experience sustainable growth right through. But Shauna,
Growth.
you touched on it a
That's
little
it.
bit, and I want to follow up on it. So let's talk a little bit, Shauna, about developing leaders, because that's an important part. Developing leaders at all levels of an organization. And one of the things that we say here at Pottingers and Associates Consulting is that we develop leaders at all levels, whether we're leading up, we're leading down, we're leading across, or we're leading ourselves, because leadership begins with self, leading yourself. And we can all benefit from a culture that develops leaders. So how can an organization bring this kind of thing to life with focus on inspiring high performance among the top talent in their team or in their organization? How can they bring that to life in their organization?
The first thing I'll say is that a high performance culture attracts high performers. And we talked about culture earlier, but one of the things that is good about a high performance culture, Jamie, is that it is intentional about developing leaders at all levels. So even at the line level, you have leadership tendencies and competencies that are manifested in the work of those individuals. And that's where the productivity comes through. That's where you see the results. And that's where you see high performance and active engagement in the process taking place, because you have individuals who, even though I may not be named a leader, I'm not a manager, they are operating as if they're managers. And there are so many ways that a leadership team can seek to develop that among their people. You're talking about a sales force. When you spot somebody who is embodying the principles of leadership, you are able to see that person and find ways to uniquely develop that individual so that they will continue to perform at a high level. But also, if you incorporate the things that we mentioned before in terms of clear career path to growth, then there is absolutely no doubt that the results will follow. And so the truth is, Jamie, there are some things that we talk about, and Pottingers and Associates Consulting is very big on this word. I think your new book that's coming out in the fall touches on it in great detail that has to do with awareness.
Yep.
How well does your leader know themselves? That's one way that you can develop leadership skills among any level of your organization. We help with that. There are tools that people can use to unlock their strengths and their potential blind spots. And why is this information important? We see it every day, Jamie, as we go out there and we share with people. This is something that you're really good at, and if you leverage this, you will get noticed at the highest level. You do that in your coaching and so on, and giving them an opportunity to think big picture. Think, how can I make this move to impact the overall sustainability and success of the organization? So that first piece, when it comes down to awareness, is where we help these leaders, to leverage the natural behaviors that they have, that are considered to be strengths on a job. We talk about resilience, we talk about grit, we talk about wanting to lead and have impact. We talk about those individuals who are just great at building relationships. Those are some of the things that we want people to know about themselves, that this is a strength that you actually have, so they can leverage that strength on the job to bring about the best results. But then there's also another piece, is that you also show them what their potential blind spots are, so that they can limit the impact of those blind spots. Jamie, we talk about it all the time. The front of the t-shirt, back of the t-shirt. The front of the t-shirt are those things that people see in you that they will always admire, and they will verbalize those things. But what you don't know about yourself is the back of the t-shirt. And so those things that could hinder your progress, those things that if you had known about them, you would have been able to find a way to adapt your style and your behavior so that you are able to better work in that area. I truly believe that the first thing that we need to do in developing leaders is giving them the gift of awareness, so that they're able to move beyond their blind spots or the impact of what's happening at the back of their t-shirts. And then there's another piece that has to do with meeting the needs of others. And this really comes down or brings into focus those managers that you have that would have made for great leaders, but due to certain things that in terms of their style of management, where they tend to only get along with those people who are a lot like themselves. Jamie, if somebody tends to take initiative, we tend to gravitate to that person because we're like that. And so the others in the room that really needs to benefit from your leadership and management, they don't necessarily get that. And so in developing leaders, corporate executives have to find ways to make sure that they're helping and equipping their managers to not manage people according to how they think that that person needs to be managed, but to manage them based on their strengths and also help them to develop in their weak areas. Another big one to Jamie, I want to just leave this one here and then I'm going to be done because I feel like I'm a little bit long-winded, is the piece that has to do with feedback. That's such an important part about developing leaders, where initially you would have clearly communicated the expectations that you have of individuals and give them an opportunity to respond and grow into what you're trying to get them to do. And you provide them with feedback, so that an ongoing feedback, so that they're able to live up to the expectations that you have of them. And so I think that basically covers the three areas that we can use to develop leaders. You have different tools, and Pottinger and Associates has developed a range of tools that we have used successfully to do this.
Wow, thank you very much, Shauna. As you made mention there, enlightenment. Many times when leaders have people in their organization or on their teams, we focus on what they're producing, and we forget, or we lose sight of the potential that they have. So they have untapped areas, and then somebody else recognizes that they have that area, and then guess what? They feel inspired to go elsewhere because they feel as if they'll get an opportunity to grow. So as leaders, of organizations, our responsibility is to expand the latitude of those members of our teams so that they can grow beyond the shallow areas of their comfort zone as they seek to achieve their goals. And by doing that, what you end up with is loyalty, because your teammates or the members of your organization will recognize that you are not just interested in what they're doing, but you're also
Mm.
interested in the fact that they could go much further and have greater impact and influence. And and when you do that, when you give people that level of confidence as members of your team, then they will take you beyond where you need to be. And you make mention of blind spots as leadership team, as an organization, recognizing not only, as you said, Sean, awareness. John Maxwell says it best. He said, if you don't know yourself, you can't
You
grow
can
yourself.
know yourself.
And if
Hmm.
you don't have an understanding of the members of your team, then it'll be impossible for you to put the right things in place to give them the help that they need to get there. So you have people on your team right now, and they need to grow. They know that they're in a spot for the last 10 or 15 years. And the question is, are you giving them the support or the tools that they need to
Yes.
be better members of the team? And what happens is that when they look at their friends in other organizations and they're growing, they're spreading, they're advancing, they're like, we have similar skills, but what's happening here? What happens many times with us as leaders is that we become focused on what satisfy our needs, and we forget that those who we're working with or those who are working for us or alongside us, they also have the hunger and the thirst for growing, because we all have that in us to want to
Mhm.
be better persons. So if you
Yes.
do these things as a leader, as an organization, you'll be getting the discretionary value that other leaders will not be having. And the next thing is that you have to manage the strengths of your people. Many times as leaders, what we focus, as you made mention, Sean, is that we're constantly repairing and retracting and doing things, when sometimes your team really need for you to equip them with what is needed. Not because a member of your team has certain gaps mean that they can't cross the bridge. They need you to put the finishing touch through support, through training, through feedback, through workshops to ensure that you can take them there. And as you said, Shauna, at Pottingers and Associates Consulting, we help teams, we help leaders, we help organizations. We help them by giving them the tools that will help them with the awareness for themselves and for their
Yes.
organizations, so that you can have a healthy culture where people feel as if they're growing. Because guess what? If you're not growing, you're stagnant. And if you're stagnant, you're like a reservoir. But
You're
if you're growing,
contracting.
you're contracting. And if you are flowing, then one day you'll make it to the ocean. And that's where the real stuff happens. And at Pottinger Associates, we help teams with that. But Shauna, before I say anything further, as we have talked about inspiring people to perform, what are some of the things, in a nutshell? We're out of time here, we have maybe another 2.5 minutes. What are some of the things that we do at Pottingers and Associates to help people, help leaders, help organizations to inspire their team to perform beyond what they're doing at this point?
Yes, Jamie, I'm happy that you asked that question because, we talked about awareness, we talked about feedback, and so on. We work with organizations to help equip them with the tools that they need to help build awareness, first of all, to help their team members understand and identify some of their strengths and potential blind spots, and to also provide them with coaching services that will help them to develop on those areas where there are gaps. So that's the first thing that we do. Beyond that, we have a range of workshops and tools. One specifically that has to do with building strong team is a high performance series that we currently are doing a promotional on. And that's a 4-hour workshop that basically helps organization first to understand for your leaders to understand themselves, and then after you would have gained that knowledge and insight, we then expand that discovery now to your team. So your team members are able to sit and see what their strengths and their potential blind spots are. And then beyond that, we even go to further to say, hey, you plus your team plus the work to be done. How are these team members aligned with the area of focus or the strategic direction that you're taking your team in? And we're able to provide that to you in that 4-hour workshop. We also have the Inspire People to Perform workshop, which basically takes the form of providing managers with So this one is specifically for managers, to help them to understand how they can unlock the potential of their team through feedback, through self-awareness, and through helping them to grow along their success journey. And that's a very, very great one. We strongly recommend it to organizations that are looking to help their managers to grow in their roles and their leaders to grow in their roles. We have a range of other tools that we can help with, but right now I'm just going to leave it there. But I'm going to just invite you to go ahead and go to our website and look at our service page, and you will be able to see a list of workshops and seminars that we have currently that you could certainly benefit from when it comes on to talent optimization.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Shauna. And as you think about your team, as you think about your organization, as you think about your goals and your culture and your people, just remember that no matter how, even if your team is doing a great job at this point, awareness will allow them to go even further.
Yes.
Hey, I'm Jamie Pottinger. I'm a talent optimization expert with Pottingers and Associates Consulting, and we're joined by Shauna K. Pottinger today, my favorite guest and your co-host, whatever you want to call it. And please visit us at our website. Shauna will be putting the website up in a second, but visit us and please reach out to us so that we can give you the support that you need to take your team to a place where you can crush your goals while achieving the results that you're looking for to achieve. Have a great one, and looking forward to you joining us on another Strategic Alignment podcast. Please visit us at Pottingers and Associates Consulting Strategic Alignment Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the page and share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. That's Jamie Pottinger, JaymiePottinger, and on LinkedIn also, and Jamie on Facebook. Guys, have a wonderful one, and thank you for joining us on the Strategic Alignment Podcast, where we say what? Inspiring growth while doing what, Shauna?
Sustaining excellence.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you for listening to the Strategic Alignment Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast by visiting our website at www.pottingerandassociatesconsulting.com.